Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Today we're at the 2011 International Miami Book Fair, and I'm sitting down to talk to Terry Walters, who is the author of Make a Clean Start by Clean Eating, or Inspiring You to Eat Clean and Live Well. Tell me, Terry, this is not your first book. What was the inspiration behind this one?
This one was really just about making clean food that's nourishing and delicious, easy and accessible for everybody. So these are books that are organized by season, and they are vegan, so there's no animal protein, there's no dairy, there's no refined anything in these books. These are what I think of as the foods that we all need more of, and my goal is to make them so that we can nourish ourselves and our families 7 days a week.
Well, I'm glad you sat down and talked to me today, because this is something I talk about day in and day out and yell at people like, hey, clean food isn't because you wash it. I mean, it's not because you put some Dawn detergent soap on it and cleaned it. Let's understand exactly what that is. So I have to ask you, did you write all these recipes yourself?
I wrote every single one of them, and I have a 14 and 11-year-old recipe tasters that are the best in the business, and it doesn't get in the book unless it passes their approval.
I was going to ask you, how did you write all those recipes with a 14, 11-year-old? It must be a full-time job to keep them in line alone.
That's why I tell people, if I can write this book, you can cook this food. I do. With 2 kids and, busy life that we all have, I think that's the biggest misconception, is that eating well and eating foods that are healthy for us is going to take a lot of time, and it doesn't. And that is the whole point of my book. So you'll see there's one recipe on each page. They're quick, they're easy. My kids say the way I cook is called dump and stir. And they work as templates for recipes also. So with each recipe, you're going to walk away with 3 or 4 different ideas. It doesn't have to be difficult, and just because it's close to the source, minimally processed so that we can get the maximum nutrition, doesn't mean that it's not going to taste good. It's going to be delicious.
Yeah, I think there's that stigma. Everybody thinks, hey, because it's going to be a lot of vegetable based, there's not a lot of meats or anything else, there are no pasta sauces, it's going to taste horrible, which is the exact opposite, and you put a lot of work and care into these recipes, and I can see it by looking through the book. Is this your second project, or have you written other books as well?
So this is the second book, and the first one is Clean Food, which is really the premise. And since I didn't talk about the premise, I'll just give you a little very quick rundown, because that's really the canvas upon which everything is written. So the idea is to move our food closer to the source. As I tell people, put a face to your food, to know where it's grown, to know how it's grown, and to eat foods that all clean food comes from the green kind of plant as opposed to the cement kind of plant. Mm-hmm. And there's a spectrum from the green kind to the cement kind, and we kind of all fall on that spectrum in a different place. And the goal is not to give up what you're eating and deprive yourself and eat just minimally processed foods. The goal is just to, one food at a time, bring in these super nutritional foods. And that's why the book's vegan, not because animal protein is bad by any stretch. And for some people, it's actually medicinally necessary. Mm-hmm. But my observation as a health counselor was that for people who are eating animal protein, whether it's fish or dairy or whatever it might be, they pretty much know what to do with it. But across the board, we all needed more ways to bring in dark leafy greens and a variety of whole grains and non-animal sources of protein. And that's what my focus is in both of the books. And I think of these as simply the foods that we all need more of, no matter what else is on your plate.
And that's a really interesting point, because you said that more people need to incorporate dark leafy greens and those vegetables into their diet. And I don't know how many people I encounter just in talking, being previously in the medical arena, it's like they don't even eat vegetables. I mean, I'm not even talking like, tomatoes or, cucumbers. They don't even eat salad, nothing. Like, they're like, veggies, I eat those once a month, whether I need them or not. So it's really exciting that you've taken the time to put that together for them. I often talk about how our fast-paced lives and all the integration of technology and children, being on the cutting edge of sports and all these things all the time, it's hard to make, family time at dinner time. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard, especially like you said, you have an 11 and a 14-year-old. So what would you say a lot of your inspiration behind these recipes as well is really to bring that family back together to increase the ease of cooking for people? Because, these recipes are so simple.
Well, there's no doubt that it's to increase the ease of cooking and to increase the quality of what we're cooking, but even just to create the awareness that every time you put something in your mouth, you're making a choice. And people cannot make a healthy choice if they don't know what they're choosing from. And the same thing holds true for our children, and that is one of the things that keeps me going, is not to get good food into my children, but to empower them to make those choices, to know that for balance, you don't need to have a fancy equation. You need to eat all the colors of the rainbow, and that there are 5 tastes, not just sweet and salty. And I suggest often for people to just involve your children, talk about the choices you're making. I have one of those handheld blenders, and I swear if my children get to use that, they'll eat whatever they make with it. So there's awesome. The power right there. We don't even buy bottled salad dressings, and most of the recipes in my first book, my daughter made because I said, here's a container, and here's the blender, and you make the salad dressing. And all of a sudden, they see what goes in, and it doesn't take any more time than opening a bottle. And so they're involved, they're empowered, and because we're talking about what the food is, they're learning how to maintain balance for themselves. And that is the greatest tool, being able to choose good health.
Well, that's encouraging because, I think so many people babysit their children with the television and they don't get them actively involved in making those decisions to, how do you eat healthy? Well, you mean if I microwave fish sticks, that's not healthy? I mean, come on. It's common sense questions like that,
Yeah, and not only that, but take your children to the grocery store. Take them to the farm. Buy a share in a farm so that you go and pick up a box, a community-supported agriculture, CSA. All of these ways of bringing your children so that they see what happens. Nobody is served by taking a box out of the freezer and putting it in a microwave and not having any clue what's in it, where it came from, how it's prepared. So sharing that together with your family, that alone is nourishing. Forget the actual finished product. Just the time together to find the food is nourishing and educational, and everyone will benefit from that. And my recipes are quick and easy, so you can spend more time sitting at the table and enjoying the meal than preparing it.
Totally agree with you. So I have to ask you, since you're really on eating clean and are saying, do you grow your own vegetables?
If you go on Facebook to the Clean Food page, you'll see my daughter. I was just telling someone, she just posted a picture. She's home in Connecticut, and she is cleaning up the garden from the year. And she has posted a picture, clean garden, and she put all the stepping stones and wrote on them, rock on rock. This garden supports clean food, and it's right there on the Clean Food page on Facebook. But yes, we have a garden, and I can tell you quite honestly, I'm as human as the next person. I go at it with gusto in the beginning of the year, and it dwindles out from there. And so I'm really fortunate to have some phenomenal farms around me as well, and I try and support all of the farmers, because the reality is the cleaner you eat, the deeper your connections are, not only with the land and with your food, with your own self, but with your community, and you're supporting your local farms. If we don't support them, we're going to lose them, and then we're going to really be dependent on other countries and petroleum and natural resources that we do not want in our food system.
People think that when you live in a city, like a big city, or you live in a metropolis, it's hard to find these things. And it's like, I tell everybody, that literally go on the internet, look, there's markets on every corner. You can find a farmer easier than you think. And they're out there. They're going, hey, please buy my product. I want to sell it. But, people are too lazy to go look for them.
I actually had a farmer come to my event this morning and met with her, and it was so phenomenal to see. And she says, most people don't know that there are farms in Miami where we are today. But there's a great resource online called localharvest.org or the nrdc.org. They both have programs where you can put in your zip code, and they'll give you a list of all the resources locally: farms, farmers markets, community-supported agriculture, grocery store, natural grocery stores, so you can get just about anything you want between one of those two resources, and it's fabulous.
Exactly. And I tell people all the time, just because the package says organic, do your homework. Doesn't mean that it's organic. Grocery stores are in the business to make money, not in the business to keep you healthy.
And organic doesn't mean what it used to mean. Even a certified organic bunch of broccoli can come from a genetically modified seed. It's grown organically. It'll pass the certification. The only way you really know what you're getting is to have a face on your food, to be able to talk directly to the farmer. But that said, eating clean is not about going to the farm and sitting there and having your salad at the farm. It's really about knowing what you're eating. And for some people, cleaning up their diet will mean giving up artificial ingredients in their processed foods. Whereas for the next person, it could mean giving up processed foods, and yet another might go straight to a farm. One is not necessarily better. What's most important is that we're aware of what we're eating, and we're empowered to move it closer to the source to increase the nutritional value.
So is there any parting words of wisdom you'd like to share with any listeners today, like any tips or anything you'd like to leave them with?
I think the most important thing with food is to understand that nourishment comes from a lot of other places. And if we are not fulfilled in the rest of our life, we're going to put that much more emphasis on the food. And food is not there to solve all those other things. So go gentle on yourself. Get sleep. Focus on your relationships. Laugh. Be happy. And take it one step at a time, and know that sometimes we make choices that nourish something other than our best nutrition, and enjoy it. There's going to be another choice right down the road. So one step at a time. And I think it's easiest to make changes when you have this supportive community. And so I have a website, terrywalters.net, and on Facebook, Clean Food, on Twitter, @TerryWalters. So there are lots of places to interject and join the conversation, ask your questions, connect with others who are trying to do the same, and eat clean and live well.
Well, I think it's great. Make sure you read Clean Start, and make sure you use the recipes. And I just think it's great what you're doing, bringing people together and educating them out there. Hey, there is alternatives. Ask questions, get out there, and do your homework. So thank you again for your time today. Really appreciate it. This was Eric Remmel with LifeImprovementRadio.com.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.